Picture this. You're in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. You're doing pretty well for yourself. Your family is dead, but don't worry about that. You're coping very well by absolutely demolishing these mushroom zombie things. Do these count as zombies? Anyway, one day, your friend, completely uninvited, tells you that she might have found a cure for this whole thing, and it just so happens to live inside this little girl.
Once they remove it, they'll be able to reverse engineer a vaccine. A vaccine.
Now, you're basically obligated to save the world, and your peaceful zombie-slaying lifestyle is over. On a more serious note, the game-turned-show has been absolutely exploding, and might have a chance to save HBO from their award-winning Velma idea. This made me think back to simpler times, like in 2013, when The Last of Us game was first released, and the very emotional, beautiful story that Naughty Dog had created. Then I realized that there's actually some very deep philosophy in the way that the game approaches the topic of hope. It might sound counterintuitive to say that a game about the world ending can have hope, and especially if you know how the game ends. But if you sit down, unwind after your busy work week, I can explain it to you. Before we can get into the idea of hope, we need a basic running understanding of what the story actually is. Simply put, a fungal disease has spread at an unprecedented rate and is killing everyone you love. I would go into more depth here, but there's already a million videos saying the same thing about cordyceps. What's more notable here are the characters and their struggle. Let's talk about Joel and Tommy and what they're going through at the beginning of the game. You see, both Joel and Tommy are blue-collar workers who lead a somewhat comfortable life. But the thing about blue-collar work is that it is generally a very hopeless work environment. Either you have to do the same back-breaking work until your back has been broken, or you have to brown-nose your way to the top of the union. The reason this is important to these characters is not just because it tells us their general attitude on life, but because we know that even before the world literally started dying, they were already in a survival situation. This is even punctuated by the way Tommy and Joel have to go back to finish a job late at night on Joel's own birthday. Now, if you're getting into The Last of Us because of the show, this is your last chance to go watch it before I start spoiling things that are going to be shown in the first episode or two. Going back to Joel and Tommy, their mindset is what makes Sarah's death so much more heartbreaking. Before this, Sarah was Joel's one beacon of hope to keep him going. The relationship that they have is much more than just a father and daughter. They are quite literally the only thing keeping the other person going. We also see the result of her death immediately when we do a time jump after the fungus spores have settled. We see Joel and Tess, who are two very aggressive survivors going about their daily life. Both of them have found themselves in a situation where aggressive actions have led them to a better surviving lifestyle. We see the way that they're willing to do whatever it takes to survive with the way they're going and hunting down Robert for stealing a couple of their weapons. As a matter of fact, when the promise of seeing their weapons is gone, they just kill him in cold blood. Great way to start a game, Naughty Dog. 10 out of 10. Would play again. We can see that Joel is really in a position where he's lost all hope of a better life, and everything he's doing now is just to finish his own life peacefully on his own terms. And Tess has a similar mindset, as we see that she's actually the one who suggested they hunt down Robert in the first place. So in this way, Tess has kind of been set up to show what Joel's journey is going to look like. After this, we're introduced to Marlene. Marlene has a vested interest in the guy that Joel and Tess just murdered. And because the whole situation is kind of tied to each other, she offers them a job that Joel and Tess can do for her that will then give Joel and Tess their weapons back. Now, this is revealed just slightly later on, but Ellie has the cure. So if you look closely at this scene where Marlene is asking Joel and Tess to smuggle her out of the city, you can see that Marlene actually does have hope in what Ellie can do. We also, again, see that Joel and Tess have no hope and just want their guns back. To be fair, Marlene didn't mention that Ellie has the cure, but Joel and Tess both know that this is about more than just helping a little girl get out of the zone. So, as the three of them embark on the journey, they inevitably run into a situation that reveals Ellie was bitten and might have the cure. This very obviously startles Joel and Tess, as their actual objective has been revealed, but they don't really think that there's hope yet. In fact, Joel has been actively avoiding talking to Ellie at this point, since Ellie reminds him of the daughter he lost. Even when there is a small possibility that the world could be fixed, he still just wants to drop her off and go home. Towards the end of their steaming smuggling mission, they get into another scrap and finally arrive at the rendezvous. However, no one is there to pick Ellie up. This causes Tess to start freaking out. Confused, Joel tells her to calm down, and when she frantically tries to find where they might have gone, there seems to be no chance of finding anybody. Tess just reveals that she was bitten an hour ago, and her infection is already far worse than what Ellie has on her arm. Now again, looking through this lens of hope, if you would, if you're paying attention, this is the second time that hope is brought up directly from a character's perspective. You see, in Tess's mind, between the time she learned that Ellie might have the cure and the time she was bitten, Tess has gained a large amount of hope that there might be a chance that she can still survive and the world actually can be saved. When this is proven wrong, she again loses hope and provides a much-needed distraction for Joel and Ellie to escape. And I think the way that we see Tess have hope in this moment is really evident of the way that it's very fleeting. It's either readily available or the scarcest resource that you'll ever see. And again, we see what little hope that Joel has left start to fade again. At this point in his life, the only friend he has to stand by him after all this time, after Sarah's death, after Tommy left him, after seemingly everybody else has given up on him, the one person he thought he could count on has died. And we can see him once again put up this wall in his heart. And he tells Ellie that she's never allowed to talk about Tess again. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Well, not for Ellie. You see, Ellie has seen death before, and has only had hope in being safe with the Fireflies. In her mind, if Joel loses hope now, she will never again be safe. Over the course of their journey to be reunited with the Fireflies, Ellie brings up Tess a few more times and eventually reaches an understanding with Joel. We continue to see that this unrelenting hope that Ellie has slowly lifts Joel's spirit in the same way that Sarah's hope did. This is why we see Joel's stone heart start to crack open to Ellie the further along on their journey that they go. We see him start to trust her, first with small steps like weaponry, and then larger steps like his emotional vulnerability. This is once again proven when they're getting towards the end of their journey, and he starts trying to detach himself from her emotionally. You see, Joel is starting to recognize that Ellie is starting to mean something to him that he is too afraid to lose. Hope for Joel has become a warning, instead of the warm motivation that hope is to Ellie. After almost dying several times and losing each other again and again, and never really resting, they finally get to their destination. I'm going to do my best to avoid spoiling the ending, but if you haven't finished the game, seriously, go give it a shot. It is well worth the purchase. The ending of the game really highlights how hope is subjective to every person. We see Marlene once again, and Tommy, and Joel and Ellie are all here. Their motivation throughout the game has always been very clear, and everything is finally in place. And we can see clearly what everybody has hoped for all this time. Marlene hoped that she might be able to help the whole world become whole again. Tommy hoped to achieve a happy life with his wife. Ellie hoped to finally find peace, and to do whatever it takes to help others have peace as well. Joel hoped to finally have something to live for, and along the way, Ellie became that. Again, trying to keep it spoiler-free, if you really look at the way the game and the characters end each of their own stories, you see very clearly that each one of them are fighting so strongly to maintain the one hope that they each have. That's why I think the game, and also the show, is all about hope. When you're trying to survive, you need something that will keep you going. What would your hope be? I know for me, what the Apostle Paul says in 2 Corinthians 4 would be the thing that I hope for. He says, "Though our bodies are outwardly dying, our spirits are being renewed every day. Our present troubles are small and won't last long, but they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever." I think considering this, and also everything we've already read, is why these stories are so powerful. In your life right now, you're putting hope in something. Maybe money, happiness, or your family. Whatever it is, we hope in things whether we realize it or not. So I would encourage you to think about your own life. Think about the show, the verses I just read you, and find something that really is worth hoping for.